room, but this is Tonya Davidson coming live to you from my bench to answer some questions about soldering boards and soldering tools that someone had posted. I thought I would do an easy live on this, but found out that somebody marked me as spam, so I can't use my personal account to go live until I sort it out with Facebook. Don't know why, unfortunate, but I am using my business account to come do this live for you now. Okay, so I'll just get started. I wanted to go, and you guys can watch this later if you missed it. I want to first show you the traditional soldering bench over here. So I'm just going to get up and walk over to this bench. Okay, so this is where I do a lot of my casting. This is a turntable with pumice in it, and that's this fine material here. And this material is heat reflective and absorbs the heat, so it's a nice place to put something. Say you had something that you wanted to prop up. This makes a nice prop for that. Also, if you ever had a stone or a small item that you wanted to make sure that it didn't get hot, you could take a small container like this and fill it with shot, lead shot, fill it with water, and then put your stone upside down in the bowl, and that would protect the stone from the heat. So these are great. You can get these at the dollar store. Make sure you get the stainless steel. I also usually have a bowl of stainless steel water to quench the pieces in as well. So this is a great tool to have on your bench. They do make these clip-on tweezers, third arm tweezers that can go on the side of your bench. This comes with a soldering station that Rio Grande and AutoFry sell. It is a heat-reflected non-asbestos pad. These are very similar to Solderite boards. Solderite is a brand name, and this one does not have a brand name. So you'll find these available. They make a nice surface for inside of the pumice pans as well. And then when my boards are not so useful anymore, I will use my table saw, my little Micromark Japanese bandsaw, and cut them up into pieces so I can use those to prop things up. So I can put something in between, say like this, and prop it up to be able to solder that if I didn't want to use my third hand or any of those will hold kind of mechanisms. So I wanted to show you this. I can also solder right on the kiln brick that you see underneath it, but this makes a nice heat-proof area. I will often take my extra fire bricks that are back here and build a oven, if you will, for casting. When I need to get a lot of heat and I want to enclose the heat in an area, I will use my fire bricks. Fire bricks are cheapest from pottery supply houses, ceramic supply houses. Just go online or find your local ceramic supplier. They sell them. They're between $5 and $6 a piece. Far cheaper than anywhere else that you'll be able to get them, including jewelry supply houses. So that's a tip for you. Make sure you get the harder ones, not the soft ones. The soft ones fall apart too easily and they make a huge mess. The harder ones are great. But I'm not talking about the kind of bricks that you would find at Lowe's or Home Depot. Those are real stove oven bricks, which are a little bit different than these. These are kiln bricks made for the inside of the kilns. Oh, I have an entire deer family outside my window right now. 2 baby fawns and a mama. So cute. Anyway, okay, sorry, I was a little distracted. Let's go back over to the bench and I want to show you some other soldering type boards. Okay, so I want to show you first, this is again that soldering shelf that goes on a GRS system. I have it on my slide lock right now, which you can see here. And this is nice because there are third hands built into it, so I can use those very effectively to hold pieces. I highly recommend this. Sometimes I will take this off and just put it inside my pumice pan and use that as well. These are called, so I took the pad that was here, the non-asbestos pad, and put it on the pumice stone. because I like to have this empty so I can use it for lots of different things as a soldering shelf at my bench. This is your traditional Solderite brand board. Solderite boards are great because they are heat reflective. So I can take different stainless steel or iron nests, if you will, that I have made to prop things up. So if I want to bend this to hold my jingle shapes, I can do that. If I wanted to get them at an angle, I could prop them up at an angle to get, because solder will flow towards gravity and towards heat. So I can actually use gravity to help the solder flow in this instance when I'm trying to solder from the inside of an enclosed tube, for example. So these are all helpful things to use, and because a Solderite board is heat reflective, the heat will hit the board and bounce up and hit the piece. So you're getting twice as much heat to the piece. So this can be really helpful, especially if you're using a smaller flame or torch. I also keep a little container of all sorts of different T-pins. I like to get my T-pins at Hobby Lobby because they have the biggest variety of sizes. They have little tiny, you can see, tiny sizes, big sizes, and they're all nickel, so I know they're safe to use. You want to be careful about picking up, and I don't even have any right here next to me. Let me see if I have any in my, yes I do. I have some here. These are cotter pins that you can get from Harbor Freight, whoops, and these work really nicely for different applications. The only problem is that these are usually galvanized when you buy them, and you need to get that galvanic coating off so you don't poison yourself when the heat hits it and it vaporizes. So I will put it in a jar of vinegar overnight to get some of that coating off, and then I'll take my little butane torch outside and burn off the rest of it with a respirator on before I use it at my bench in the studio. And of course I always have really good ventilation on in the studio as well. So these are some T-pins and head pins that I like to use to hold things. You can bend them into shapes. Very helpful to have those at your bench. But I wanted to really cover today was your surfaces. And I use the Solderite board a lot, but the problem is that when it gets like this, it's not really easy to take the flex off of them. And when you try to, they will chip and divot, and so then I'll cut them up or I'll use parts of them for different things. That's the only drawback about a Solderite board, is it doesn't have a very, very long life. It has kind of a short life. You can cut them up into shapes. So I put this on my bandsaw and cut it up, and that way it will fit inside of this turntable, which is from Auto Fry. And the turntable comes with this silkware board, which is one of my favorites. And the silkware board comes with the turntable, so you can turn it as you are soldering. What I love about this is I can put some hot pickle on there, and with a toothbrush scrub off all of the flux, and it's like it's brand new, ready to go again. If I want to put the lines back on it, this is an Amico underglaze pencil, and I can write on it, and then once I apply the heat, that makes the pencil more permanent, and will show up until you've taken it off with pickle or it's worn off from use. So this turntable is great. This allows me to center things where I want to put them. I can put my solder in different areas and know what they are. I can pop this out. I can take my Solderite board and put that in there, or this is called corderite. Sorry about that. This one is the corderite. And, no, sorry, it's the Gotronics. I'm thinking of Kiln Shelf. This is Gotronics board, and that's where you get it from, Gotronics, and they require $100 minimum. But what's so great about the board, and you get it in a sheet, and you have to cut it up yourself, and a bandsaw will do that. But what's so great about this is it's kind of a firm, but you can put T-pins in it and hold things with it. So it's fantastic for that. You can even use the little pins that come with your honeycomb boards. These are the honeycomb boards that come with the ceramic or the steel pins. They make the steel pins, they sell them separately, and those will go in nicely into this Cotronics board. Again, I have written on the Cotronics board with my Amico pencil, again, to make lines and marks so I can have everything centered when I am soldering. So this board is fantastic for holding things. However, it is only, and when I get the sheets, I'll also cut them into smaller pieces to use for different things. So say like I want to buttress something up. Don't have a piece here. Well, I'll just use this one. Say like I wanted to hold this up, I could do something like that. So these are very helpful for cutting into different shapes and sizes. The problem with the Cotronics board is that although you can put pins into it, it's not completely soft. So these are, I mentioned these in a post to Candace, that these are called Kaiser Lee Boards. They are meant for the glass industry. And I used to be in the glass industry, so I knew about them. So I brought them over into this industry and started selling them at my other company. But what's so great about them is you can push things all the way down so that this is halfway in, and then be able to line up your tubing, tiny tubing, or other things when you're soldering. You can stick all sorts of things into it that are bigger, all the way down into it so it's recessed, and still be able to use the board. And when you want to clean these boards out, for example, a lot of people take them outside and take them against a kiln brick and move them back and forth, and that will clean some of this off of the surface, some of the flux that has caramelized, that's not the right word, but on the surface. However, if you go to Harbor Freight, they sell these rasps that are for wood that are super cheap. Put on your respirator or your really good N95 mask and just do this outside, and it will take it off perfectly, which is what I've done with this one. So this used to look like this, and I've done both sides, and now it's ready to go again, and I don't have all of that crusty flux surface on here. So these are called Kaiser Lee Boards, Kaiserlee, separate word, boards. And they work extremely nicely for pushing things in. So you've got that, or you've got the Cotronics boards. Now the Cotronics boards, when you first use them, will turn black, and they will have a funky smell that you should have a ventilation on, because it's the rigidizer that is burning off that is keeping all the particles, the silica particles, together. So it will eventually burn off and they'll turn white again, but don't be alarmed if they turn black at first. That's just the rigidizer burning off. If you want, you can stick these in a kiln, or you can take them outside and burn that off first before you have it in your studio. It is toxic, it will make your eyes water, and I don't know why they don't just do it when they sell it, but they don't want the extra cost. We used to sell boards that had rigidizer in them at the company that I owned, and we actually put them in a kiln outside and burned them off twice before sending them to customers, because we always got that panic call of why did they turn black and they're ruined, and now my house smells horrible. So just some ideas for you. I'm going to look and see if there are any comments. Okay, no questions so far. And there is a 30-second delay, so I'll keep looking for questions. This is a Magnesium Block, and I'm not a fan of these. And the reason why is, yes, you can push a T-pin or a head pin into it, but it has some kind of dust on it, and also feels like it's coated in something, because when you use it, it almost like the surface flakes away. So I'm not a huge fan of these. I even wanted to sell this one. I don't think I'm going to use it, because it just doesn't seem to be a great alternative for me. I think the other boards are much better. Then you've also got your charcoal blocks. So this is necessary for fusing work. It will help with oxidation. And it's also, you need to make sure you wrap these with stainless steel binding wire to keep them together. You also need to make sure you have a spritzer of water nearby, and when you're done using it, you need to spritz it so that it extinguishes any of the heat or flame inside of the charcoal block, because they can continue to burn, and then they deteriorate faster, and it can also cause a fire in your house. This is a compressed charcoal block that is round, and a lot of people like to use these. They're more of a heat reflective. They don't hold the heat as well as these do. These are called hardwood. These are called compressed. So a really great source for these is Allcraft. Tevel at Allcraft, and tell him I sent you. He'll know which ones that you want to use and purchase. There's also the smaller ones, and these are more of the soft charcoal, and they fall apart pretty quickly, I think. So you don't get a whole lot of use out of them, but they're nice to have. Everything has a use. Each certain job will give you better result, an easier task, an easier time of it than just trying to use the same surface for every single thing that you try to do at your bench. Let's see, what else can I show you? Now, I know you're probably familiar with the honey blocks. These are also great. These will hold little pins. This one has square holes, this one has round holes. I think this is a Eurotool product, and this is an inexpensive product that you can get from the dealers overseas. They all hold the pins. They will thermal shock after time, but don't throw away those little things. Take them, cut them up, wear a mask anytime you cut these things up though, and a respirator or a really good N95 mask. And you can grind these with a grinding wheel into different shapes. So this one I use this because it has like this curve, so I can put things that are shaped like that into the curve, and that helps me with some of my jobs. And it's also heat reflective. I think that's all as far as different surfaces. I could definitely show you other things that are here, things that I've created out of wire to get my torch underneath. So this is a tiny rack that fits on this bench that I can stick my torch underneath. I've also got things like this that I will put, because I've bent that leg around, it gives me a little bit of space. I think you can see I can fit this underneath it, so you're getting that heat bounce back onto your piece when your torch is circling around the piece. What I do love the most about the turntable is if I had something like this on it and I had a piece, I could just keep turning it with my flame pointed at it, and the flame would bounce off of that heat reflective surface back onto the piece. So think about the best way to achieve your goal when you're at your bench and what tools work best for that. Okay, I'm just going to read through the comments. So the charcoal blocks, you have your soft charcoal, you have your hard charcoal, and you have your compressed. So the round one is really more of a compressed hard charcoal. I think it's probably made of some kind of slurry and is compressed. I don't exactly know how they manufacture it, but it is really hard. And it's also a heat reflective because it's so compressed. Whereas this one is a hardwood, which means it's going to take longer for it to burn and retain the heat. It's also reflective versus the softwood, which is from a softwood tree that is going to not be as reflective, not as hard, and burn through faster. So the hard ones are going to last a little bit longer than the soft, and the compressed is going to last you the longest for charcoal. But again, it just has different properties depending upon what you want to do. If you're trying to fuse a bunch of work, which I do a lot of fusing, or if you're trying to get heat on the piece with having a reducing environment where you don't have oxygen. The charcoal is absorbing the oxygen, so you have less chance of having oxidation become an issue with fusing, with the piece fusing together or granulating. Okay. I didn't talk about any tripods or equipment. If you want to know about that, I can go over that quickly. I don't use the one over this bench, this one, very often. I could take this and place it on top, and that creates a really nice surface for sticking the torch up underneath here. The problem with the ones that come with it is I think that they're not safe. To me, they don't seem safe. The metal that's on it seems like it's coated with something, because when you apply high heat to it, the metal does not withstand the heat. And it also smells, so to me that's a red flag. So I throw away that piece that comes with it and I don't use it. I will buy these from twpink.com. You can buy them in different sizes. They go by how many squares are per inch. So you just want to order it by how many holes you want to see per inch, which is fewer. And then also the gauge of wire. Remember that when you add wire thicknesses, that you're having more of a heat sink. So the heat of the torch is going to heat up this versus the actual metal. So the thinner the metal is here, the better, but you don't want it too thin because you want it to last. So finding the right gauge wire for this is key. And then you can bend it with your vise, sticking it in the vise and just bending it over and hammering it over. You can put legs in it, like this piece that I showed you, this one. And that's how I made this piece. And we used to sell these at the company that I owned. That's why I know about the resources for finding these. But you just want to think about heat sinks. You want your piece to get enough heat, and sometimes this is why people have problems, is that they have too many third hands on their piece. They have too much wire underneath their piece, and the torch is heating up, or the kiln is heating up, those pieces of furniture or equipment and not the actual piece. You can also do, talking about third hands, you can use tweezers. You can use tweezers in a binder clip, which is one of my new favorite things to do. So you just take a binder clip and put that on the tweezer like so, and that sits, you gotta put it on your right though for a demonstration. Let me put my solderite board back here. So this would act as a, like that. So it's a balancing mechanism with gravity that will keep that in place. So this would be really good for head pins or not head pins, but posts, or a post that you were putting on, something like that. This works excellent for that. And you know, you can get bent tweezers or straight tweezers. They also make tweezers like this. There's all sorts of tweezers that will grab and pull things in. So you just have to kind of experiment with. And this is a cheaper idea than this. So the same kind of thing. This holds things up or down, depending on what you do. And you could use this on here as well to do a couple different things. So the more little pieces of equipment you have around, the easier your job is. Also for setting up. Also there is something like this. I used to sell these. They're just 3 pieces of nail put together, and then I can do that and it will hold up a piece. I can hold up a penny. There's so many, anything that's going to roll around, this works really well for that. I think there's, William Cobb makes one that's similar to this, but it's like a magnet and a pin that you can move. I own it. I tend to use these more because they're based on gravity and that arrangement of 3 nails put together. Or I will use these, sorry about that, I will use these third hands. Let me see if there are any other questions. Other ways to cut the solderite board besides a bandsaw. You could probably use your jeweler's saw with a coarse blade on it, or get a hacksaw from the Ace or Lowe's or Home Depot, one of the smaller hacksaws. You might get some splintering of the edges. It might not be clean, but it's worth a try. It couldn't hurt. I'm not sure what else would cut it. It's not that it's indestructible. If you had a table saw or a miter saw, that would probably work as well. You could also even probably use, let me see if I can get to it. Got my, where is it? I think I took it over to the other bench. But you could also use something like this. I wish I had my diamond one, but this is a cutoff wheel, a separating disc. And I should have a mask on, so, and I'm also sitting away from the foot pedal. So on the fly with the wrong hand, and this is gonna spit at me. And I'm using my left hand, which I'm not ambidextrous, and that cuts it just fine. So again, you want to be wearing a mask, do this outside, but as you can see, that cut pretty deep, very quickly, very easily right into the board. So these will work. These are just cutoff discs from Auto Fry or Rio or even Harbor Freight. Let's see. The fire bricks, are they the same ones that you get from a fireplace store? No, they're not. The fire bricks, as I said, your best bet is to get them from a pottery supply house. They are kiln bricks, which are used on the inside of a kiln. They retain heat the best, and they're also hard but not too hard. You don't want heat reflective, you want medium heat reflective, but also absorbing some of the heat. And these kiln bricks will do that. They're also very inexpensive if you get it from the ceramic supply houses. The jewelry suppliers will also carry them, but they're going to sell them for $11 to $13 a piece instead of $5 to $6 a piece. So just find your local supplier, supply house, look up ceramics. You can also get them online and also through Amazon. In a pinch, I've gotten a huge box of them here for a class and found them on Amazon, but you're looking for, you can always post it and ask me if that's the right one, and I can tell you if it is or not. What's the best way to cut the Kaiser Lee board? Again, I cut it with the bandsaw, but you could cut it with, this is so easy to cut. You could find a hacksaw from your Ace, you know, the smaller hacksaws, not the ones, the big ones to cut off a pipe or to cut down a tree or whatever, but they make little ones. And you could just saw right through this. I actually think I have one over there, but it would take me a minute to go get it because I didn't think about showing you that. But yes, that would work fine. These are really super easy to cut through. You could even use a really thick or wide exact like box knife would cut it as well. These are surprisingly easy to cut. Kaiser Lee boards are definitely in my top 3 of the tools to use when I'm soldering, definitely. One of the other things I really love to use is Kate Wolf's clay, wolf clay. And that's something that's really helpful when you have something that isn't perfectly a shape that is flat. So if I were doing one of these, I could prop this up in her Kate Wolf clay and solder it. And I have some pictures of some fused gold that I did that I granulated on to go over. They were like a sheath that went over an elk's ivory tooth. And I needed something that would hold the 2 sides up like this so I could solder on the seam. And that was, if I hadn't had that, I don't know how I would have held it up and held it in place because binding wire wouldn't have worked on that situation. So sometimes these things will save your butt when you have a project that is interesting or different. Okay, see if there's any other questions. I think that might be it. Oh, can you post which size wire and holes per inch you have? Yes, I will measure it and post that for you. I'll even post a link to twpink.com and which one to order if you'd like. Yeah, don't ever let anything go to waste. So I will even cut up the honey blocks because they will thermal shock after time. These, I will just cut them up with my bandsaw. And the bandsaw that I have, if you'd like, I can post a tutorial on or video on that as well. It's really easy to use. It's not as scary as like a big one. Like Delana has this big, massive one that would scare me to use, but she's used to using it. So I like the size of this one. It's easy. I can cut metal. I can cut mild steel. I can cut sterling. I can cut tubing. I can cut my bricks, my boards, whatever I need to. I can cut acrylic. I can cut wood. So in a moment's notice, if I need a tool, I just go over and flip my saw on and I'm done. And Micromark usually has a sale on them that you can save $50 to $75. So just fill out their information to get their email newsletter so that you're aware of their sales. And the shipping isn't that bad either. I don't work in platinum, so I don't know what the different things that you can use for platinum. Platinum is high heat, so if you're going to work in platinum, you do need to know that information. Let's see, what else? Can you post the source of the male gizmo? Oh, the nail, the 3 nails. Unfortunately, I used to carry these, and I don't know anyone that does carry them, but you can make them yourself. The other thing is Eli Gunamine. I'm going to make his name totally wrong, say it wrong, but I will post a link. He has a really cool little tool called the Hummingbird that works very, very similarly. I know that PayPay Tools also has something that I believe Christopher came out with that from LP Lion Forge that he has developed that also works similarly. And then you also have the William Cobb tool, the Wheel Hold. So those are all 3 products that are on the market that do something similar to this. I have a whole bunch of these because I used to sell them in my company, but I don't think you can get them anymore. So I won't be able to give you a source for that. I will do the bandsaw tutorial, and somebody did post his name at Ely, so I probably said that wrong, I apologize. And I would check him out. He has a really good YouTube channel that has lots of different tips and tricks, and he sells some tools, and he also sells lapidary wheels for people who are doing harder stones like sapphires and rubies and difficult stones to polish. So if you're looking for some of that information, he's a good source for that. Okay, so I think that I just wanted to show, this was a question that someone had about a board that would replace the board she had, and I thought, well, I'll just show all the things in my soldering bench and see what questions you might have that I can show you. But I think I covered it all. So if you guys have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them later. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks. Share this with your friends if it was helpful or useful. I would love to have more people know about it. All right, you guys have a great afternoon. Bye.